Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 420. What's up, everybody? So your favorite bearded big mouth is back from Joshua Tree, and it was an absolute epic adventure. We had such a good time. I was able to get so many good shots of places that I've wanted to shoot for so long, but they're always so busy. So one of those places is Arch Rock, and it's always teeming with people. You can never get the kind of shots that you want to get. So we braved the elements last night, and we cruised out from our campsite, which was over at Jumbo Rocks. And we cruised over to Arch Rock at night, well, at about 4 p.m. before it got dark. And we, explored a little bit over there. And then as night started to creep down on us, we set up and got our spots to get some shots. And I am beyond pleased with the pictures I was able to get last night at Arch Rock. So I'll definitely be posting a bunch of those pictures as well for you folks to check out. I'll post them to Twitter like usual. And for those of you who are on the Facebook page, I'll post them there as well. Now, that wasn't the only thing that happened either. We were at our campsite, and a lot of these photo expeditions I go with my uncle. So we're hanging out at our campsite, and he finds this piece of paper, and it's obviously a song that somebody was working on or somebody finished. And he grabs it and he looks at it, and we take a look at the lyrics and whatnot. And he's like, you know what? Let's just hold on to this. Somebody might come looking for it. It was super windy out there. And a few campsites away, we had seen a tent set up, and outside of the tent, there was a couple of guitars and stuff like that. So we figured that it was probably somebody, from there, from that campsite. It was their work, so we weren't going to toss it or whatever. Well, lo and behold, this guy comes over the rock formation that separates the campsites, and my boy is decked out like he just got off of the country music train bus, right? My guy is wearing the full hat. He got the country cowboy shirt on, the jeans, the boots, the whole flip. So he's walking around and he's looking for whatever, I don't know, checking out the scenery maybe. And my uncle says to him, "Hey, pal, you a musician by some chance?" And this guy kind of looks at us funky, like, "What the hell is it your business what I am?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then my uncle says to him, "Did you happen to lose some music?" And the dude's like, "Yeah, I did." So long story short, he comes over, we give him the song. He bounces back to his campsite, but not before being very, very, very thankful that we found the song. So about an hour later, he comes walking back over to our campsite, and this time he's with his girlfriend, and he has his guitar. And he asks us if we like Hank Williams Jr., and I'm not the hugest country fan by any means, but hell, who doesn't know Hank Williams Jr., right? So we're like, yeah, hell yeah. So my guy breaks out into a song, rocks out for us, and puts on quite the performance right there campsite. So we get to talking with him, and his name was Colt McKinnon, something like that. I believe Colt McKenna. And he is a signed country music act, in fact. So this trip was filled with all kinds of fun, all kinds of unexpected surprises. And it was topped off by this dude being so gracious that he comes over to the campsite and belts out a tune for us. So that was a bit unexpected. Not too often you get somebody signed to a record label popping by your campsite in the middle of the damn Mojave Desert to serenade you with a jam. So all in all, it was a fantastic trip. And there needs to be a bazillion more of those in my future, because it is really, really nice to be able to get out of Vegas again and hit places in California that were closed for so long. So anyway, that's a bit of a recap of my trip. And there's some other stuff too we'll get to, but those were the two things that I wanted to talk about before we hop into our article today, because I thought it was pretty cool to be able to get that arch rock and get the shots that we wanted, and then B, for that scenario to play out where dude comes over and serenades us. Pretty damn cool. All right, folks. So, while I was gone, there has been a bit of a development about tapes that Epstein might have had, or did have, according to Ghislaine Maxwell, of not only Donald Trump, but Bill Clinton. Now, again, this is that kind of explosive stuff that we don't know for sure if there's these tapes or not. Could there be tapes in existence of these guys? 100% possibility. They spent enough time with Jeffrey Epstein, didn't they? They spent enough time on his plane. They spent enough time palling around with him. And Trump can try and distance himself all he wants, but the fact remains that Trump was palling around with Jeffrey Epstein for quite some time. They had a lot of the same interests, from real estate to the modeling industry to young women. Those are just facts. I mean, a lot of people don't like to hear it when their guy is called out, right? The guy on their team is called out. That's not possible. That can't be true. What about the other guy? And then it becomes a whole bunch of whataboutisms. But what I've learned recently, covering this case especially, is there is no whataboutisms, all right? If you're a scumbag, you're a scumbag. Don't point the finger to somebody else, because believe me, we're going to get around to them too. So every single person involved in this Jeffrey Epstein case, from Donald Trump to Bill Clinton to Leon Black, it does not matter who you are. Until this story is told completely and the truth is out there and people pay the price, well, there's going to be no avoiding this. There's going to be no distancing yourself from this. Because if these tapes do exist, then how long before the public knows about them, meaning that they're in the hands of the government or who, Lord knows who else. So if there are these tapes out there, and according to this article, and according to Ghislaine Maxwell, they are out there, then I think a top priority for the investigators is to get their hands on these tapes. Or do they have them already? I mean, I would think that they don't. If they had that sort of explosive material, they would have definitely lit Trump's ass up, right? They definitely would have lit Trump up, and it wouldn't even been a second thought if they had that sort of compromise on him. Now, does Epstein or did Epstein have that shit stashed somewhere? Look, quite possible. Ghislaine might say she might not know about it or where it is, but what about Indike? What about Khan? And you see, once again, that is why this needs to be RICO. Because once it's RICO, all of these things are connected, and all of them can be tied together. That's what needs to occur. It needs to happen yesterday. So in this Daily Mail article, it goes into the shtick about Ghislaine being mistreated in jail as well a little bit. So we didn't cover that article since I was in Joshua Tree, so we'll get to that at the end of this article, it looks like. But the gist of this one has to do with Epstein, Trump, and Clinton, and if there was any tapes that were made, and if Epstein was, or if his associates or the estate is in possession of those tapes still. So let's jump into the Daily Mail and let's see what Daniel Bates has to say. Ghislaine Maxwell admitted Jeffrey Epstein did have tapes of Trump and the Clintons after she was tricked by 60 Minutes producer in 2016, but refused to help locate them because she wanted Hillary to win. So you see how this works here, huh, folks? They're in bed with both sides. So if before you go, you wagging the finger at your cousin who's a Trump supporter, or the other way around at somebody who likes Clinton or the Democrats, understand that all of these elite scumbags are in on the scam together. They're all playing kayfabe together. All of these people are in on it. And none of them care about me or you or the survivors or justice or anything like that. They care about, like I always say, the consolidation of power and the creation of more power. And it's not even wealth at this point to these people. They have that in spades. What they want is power. That's what they want. And they want to consolidate it so that only a few of them can make the decisions. Like I said, this article was authored by Daniel Bates. Ghislaine Maxwell appeared to admit Jeffrey Epstein was taping his famous friends, including Donald Trump and the Clintons, during a 2016 meeting with former CBS producer Ira Rosen, a new book reveals. So that's a loaded-ass statement right there, right? According to Ghislaine Maxwell, what she said to this producer, Ira Rosen, is that she has tapes, Epstein was taping his famous friends, including Trump and Clinton. So, obviously, the two names that pop are the two ex-presidents, right? Trump and Clinton. Everybody wants to know the deal with these two morons and their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, for sure. But not hyperlinked is the word friends. And that is all-encompassing, right? How many other friends were caught on tape? How many other friends were hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein and were caught up in this same exact situation? We know a lot of people. Now the question is, was, and will be, where are these tapes and who is in possession of them? Were they destroyed? Did Jeffrey Epstein give them to Khan and Indike to safeguard? Who the hell knows? But the investigators better get to the bottom of it. The British socialite, co-conspirator, general all-around scuzzbag, fellow child abuser, and bipedal serpent, who was accused of procuring underage girls for the billionaire pedophile, reportedly told Rosen she didn't know where such recordings were after the Emmy-winning producer asked her to hand over footage of Trump. Now, Ghislaine doesn't know where they are, huh? I mean, I guess it's possible that she didn't know where these tapes were. Maybe she wasn't in charge of this set of tapes. Maybe that wasn't her gig. But she definitely knew who did and didn't get filmed inside of this web of scumbags. And I think this is damning for Trump and certainly damning for Clinton as well. For Ghislaine Maxwell to state this sort of thing to Ira Rosen. Now, she could have just easily been like, nah, there's no tapes, nothing, none of that even happened, that doesn't even exist. But she didn't. So, where are these tapes? And I know Ghislaine Maxwell is an epic liar. There is no doubt about that. Zero doubt about that. But with this being out there and Ira Rosen coming out and talking about it, you would have to think that the prosecution would already be hip to it, and if not, that they're going to dig and try and find out what's what here. The conversation took place ahead of the 2016 U.S. presidential election, and Maxwell, who supported Hillary at the time, refused to help, saying, "If you get the tapes on Trump, you have to do Bill Clinton." Oh, is that right? Since when? I mean, do you think the legacy media has to do that? The legacy media has never sat on information or tapes to help somebody they like before? Now, in this instance, I have no doubt if there were tapes that had Bill Clinton or Donald Trump on them and the media got their hands on them, they would have to put those out, right? Or at least acknowledge their existence and turn them over to the authorities. Because that's something that can't be hidden forever. Especially if this Ira Rosen guy knows it, then other people certainly know it. Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't just talking to him. And I have a sneaking suspicion that if you want to get to the bottom of all of this, then the way to get there is Darren Indike. Darren Indike most certainly has keys to where a lot of the bodies are buried. And if Ghislaine does have this information and she does know about these tapes or where they might be located, is she going to use that as a ace up her sleeve to try and minimize the sentence of her own for her own part in this? I don't know. It quite possibly, because the Justice Department, like I talked about, if they're willing to get into bed with somebody like Sammy the Bull Gravano, who's a serial killer, and basically give him no time served, then if Ghislaine Maxwell can serve them up Trump and Clinton, then you would have to think they'd be all over it. The anecdote is included in Rosen's new book, Ticking Clock, Behind the Scenes at 60 Minutes, released Tuesday, in which he dishes about his time working at the investigative show. The book sheds light on reported claims that Epstein had secretly recorded his celebrity friends having sex with women and underage girls at his home, and then used the footage to blackmail them. So, how much more evidence do we need that has to come out, right, before people understand the scope of what was going on here? That Jeffrey Epstein was in fact filming everybody, like we know. I mean, come on. Maria already told us all of this. This has been told to us by a lot of the survivors and a lot of people who had just been going to Epstein's house and seen the AV room. So we know that everything was lit up and being recorded. I think the question is, and the question on everybody's mind, is where is this information? Where are these tapes? Where are these recordings? Two of Epstein's survivors, Maria Farmer and Virginia Roberts, have previously claimed that they saw a room full of CCTV monitors in a room at his $65 million mansion in New York, and some cameras installed in the bathrooms. And if that's the case, and it definitely is, where else did he have cameras throughout that house that people didn't even know about? You know, this guy had some sick proclivities. You know that he had cameras stashed everywhere. In his memoir, Rosen reveals he arranged a meeting with Maxwell in early 2016, and acting on a hunch that the tapes existed, tricked her into confirming they did. I want the tapes. I know he, Epstein, was videotaping everyone, and I want the tapes of Trump with the girls, Rosen told her. Well, it just goes to show you what Rosen was about anyway, right? So I get it, and I want to see the tapes too. But it's always Trump with these people, and not just Bill Clinton either, right? I mean, it's crazy. How about everybody who was involved? If I was this Ira Rosen guy, I would say I want the tapes. I know he was videotaping everyone, and I want the tapes of Trump, Clinton, and everyone else with the girls, is what I would say, because guess what? I don't care who gets brought down by this. If you were hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, if you were enabling Jeffrey Epstein, if you were participating with him in these crimes, then it doesn't matter to me who you are or what stupid-ass political party you might represent. I hope you get the maximum sentence. Maxwell replied, I don't know where they are. Rosen writes he told her to ask Epstein, adding that the fate of the country is at stake. So he was trying to butter Maxwell up, Ira Rosen, right, to get her to give these tapes over. My question is, how does Ira Rosen know Maxwell so well? Was he hanging out with her at all, maybe? Well, who knows? We know that these people like they like to have their accesses to power, don't they? Look at Mr. Clogs himself, Georgie Stephanopoulos, hanging out over at Jeffrey Epstein's. All these people want is clout. Trump could be elected president, and how would you feel if those tapes emerged after he was in office? Rosen asked Maxwell. She gave me a stern look and pointed a finger in my face. She said, I am the daughter of a press baron. I know the way you people think. If you do one side, you must do the other. If you get the tapes on Trump, you have to do Clinton. Rosen replied, I will. I will go wherever the story goes. Well, that's good. It's nice to hear, because that's how you should follow this or any other case. Everybody's allowed to have their own politics, folks, but you can't let it bleed into your work, and you certainly can't let your confirmation bias lead you by the nose. But everybody has their own life views and their own political views. That's how this works. But if you have the chance and you have the tapes that bring down Trump and Clinton, and you only show one side of that story, then you're a scumbag propagandist piece of shit who should be seriously looked at for sedition. No man or woman who engaged in this sort of behavior or who is even hanging out with Epstein should ever be the president of this country. But yet we have two presidents that we know of that certainly were chummy, buddy with the biggest pedophile disgust bag in the history of modern times. I mean, that's where we're at with this scumbag. And two ex-presidents called him buddy, called him friend. Jeff's a real great guy, says one of them, while the other one's getting a massage in a chair by one of his survivors. As Tony Soprano would say, go F yourself. According to Maxwell, however, Epstein allegedly never told her of the whereabouts of the tapes, Rosen writes. Maxwell didn't want Trump elected, but said that Hillary Clinton was so comfortably ahead and there was no need for the story to come out. Well, why would anyone doubt that Ghislaine Maxwell would want Hillary Clinton to win? They had a way deeper friendship with the Clintons than they did with Trump, that's for sure, and for a longer time. Now, Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump might have been tight in the late 90s and stuff like that, but I'm talking about throughout the decades, they remained close with the Clintons. And let's remember, Epstein was visiting the Clinton White House even. So they are very, very, very close. And when people try to act like Maxwell and Epstein were not part of Bill Clinton's very close social circle, it makes me laugh hysterically because they were. Just like Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were boys for quite some time. Those are irrefutable facts. No matter the spin and no matter what sort of propaganda you want to use, those are the facts. Flight logs have revealed that Bill Clinton took at least 26 flights on Epstein's private jet known as the Lolita Express, and photos published by DailyMail.com have shown him getting a massage while on board from a young Epstein survivor, like I just talked about. So again, before you put on your, D or R Superman shirt and want to come save the day for your chosen political figure who doesn't give a damn about you, give your head a good shake and understand that both sides are in on it. Both sides. Reports have claimed that Clinton also went to Epstein's island in the Caribbean, but he has denied this and always claimed he flew on the plane through his work at the Clinton Foundation. Oh, it's such bullshit. Bill Clinton's an absolute liar. Liar. And he was also, by the way, at Zorro Ranch. I'm going to add that on every single time these outlets forget to put that part in. It's not very often I say to you, oh yeah, folks, I confirmed that with a source myself face to face. Well, I confirmed the fact that Bill Clinton was at that ranch with a source face to face in New Mexico. And this dude will sit here and lie and act like he wasn't. Well, guess what? The legacy media might give you a pass, but the rest of us are not going to do so. And Bill Clinton, guess what? These tapes coming out, or the fact that they exist and Maxwell's confirming it, you and your buddy Donald Trump and the rest of you who think that you've gotten away with all of this nonsense for so long, well, don't get too far ahead of yourselves, because this game is far from over, folks, and there's a few more possessions to be had. Trump and Epstein were also friends for years and partied together in Florida, with the former president once saying that the pedophile liked women on the younger side. Well, yeah, that's kind of what pedophiles do, right? Like women on the younger side, and we're talking 14 here, folks, okay? I'm not talking about 18. I'm talking about 14 here. 13 in some cases. And honestly, if you were involved in the modeling agency in the 80s and early 90s and probably after that, you're automatically suspect to me. I automatically think that you're some kind of scumball. Why are these old-ass gross dudes involved in this shit? Get out of there. Trump has no business in the modeling world. Neither does guys like Jean-Luc Brunel. And it's just disgusting to see how many sick bastards in the 80s and 90s especially inhabited that world and how they used it to abuse these girls. At the end of the night, Rosen says he hailed Maxwell a taxi and she asked if he was going back to her place. "Get me the tapes and I'll go back to your place," he replied, but Maxwell gave him a kiss on the cheek and left. Is he inferring that Maxwell was asking him to come back to the house to go to, a bit of fun, perhaps? I mean, was she trying to get this dude to take her to Bangtown? I don't understand what that even means. Are you going back to my place? What, are they going to have a nightcap? And then this dude's like, yeah, if you give me the tapes, I guess. So what a weird exchange that must be, right? Talk about quid pro quo. For all of you out there that were going crazy with your eyeballs popping out of your head over quid pro quo, here's a real nice example of that, huh? I come back to your place. You and I go in the bedroom. I take you to Bangtown. You give me these tapes. And then, we go our separate ways. Quid pro quo. That's basically what they're inferring here. Very odd. Rosen writes that he thinks the wealthy men in Palm Beach invested with Epstein after being extorted with pictures from nights of debauchery. Very possible. The encounter was his second meeting with Maxwell. Rosen writes that he also saw Maxwell at a book party at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York in 2014 after she met her future husband, your cousin from Boston, Scott Borgerson, and that she had approached him wearing a sexy red dress and asked for a ride home. A sexy red dress? Ghislaine Maxwell. Sexy. Those are words that should never be connected to each other. Once there, she turned to me in the front seat with an offer. Oh boy, here we go. I guess I wasn't wrong, huh? "If you come in and F me, I will tell you the secrets of my father," Maxwell said, Rosen writes. Damn, this Rosen dude must think he's Casanova, huh? What is he, Daddy Longstrokes? He's running around and got all these billionaire ladies falling all over him, trying to come in and get a little nightcap, have a little dalliance, perhaps? This whole situation's odd as hell, folks. Really weird. And, I guess maybe Ghislaine was like that. Maybe she got down like that. And she was very promiscuous with everybody she met. These people with these sorts of proclivities are, they're very odd people. So maybe they were all into that. Maybe they were all engaging in this sort of behavior. But it seems odd to me that Ghislaine Maxwell's offering to take this dude back to the casa to have a little bit of, adult fun. And he's just some lowly producer, and she's saying that she's going to divulge all of her secrets if old boy takes her back and shows her what's up. Again, this Ira Rosen dude might be some hell of a lover. I don't know. Maybe he's the Dirk Diggler of producers. Maxwell was referring to Robert Maxwell, the disgraced British newspaper tycoon, who was rumored to have been an Israeli intelligence agent and died under mysterious circumstances on his yacht in the Canary Islands in 1991. So we've talked about that quite a bit recently, especially with our Maxwell series on Saturdays. If you've missed those episodes, go back and check them out. They provide a lot of context for who Maxwell was and how Ghislaine Maxwell became the sort of person she is. I was stunned and speechless, my mind racing. I was not about to sleep with her, but the reporter in me still wondered if her information would make a good 60 Minutes piece, he added. Oh, no, it wouldn't make a good 60 Minutes piece. And Rosen, he's just such a great guy above the fray. He was like, I'm not going to sleep with her. But before, you would? You were going to go, you would trade it then, but not now. Guy, this story is definitely odd with this Rosen character and him saying that Maxwell was looking for him to take her home for a little action. Rosen said he told Maxwell, "What a great offer, but I left my dog home alone and I really need to get back to her." All right, well, that's a proper excuse, and I don't blame him for making one up. But I have to wonder if this whole entire exchange ever really happened, honestly. It seems bizarre. I'm not saying it didn't, but I don't know. I have no idea. It's a very bizarre type of exchange, no doubt about it. It was a lame excuse and she knew it. She smiled weakly and said goodnight. Among those who have claimed that there were secret recordings in Epstein's properties is David Boies, a lawyer who represents a number of his survivors. He has said that Britain's Prince Andrew and other powerful men appear in CCTV footage recorded at Jeffrey Epstein's properties. Facts. They definitely do. 100%. And a guy like David Boies certainly isn't coming out and making a claim like that unless it's factual. This isn't L. Lynn Wood we're talking about here, okay? We're talking about somebody who is serious about their business. So we know that there's CCTV footage, we know that it exists, and we know that these people were palling around with Epstein. Can we see it, please? The pedophile has surveillance systems at his homes in New York and Palm Beach, and Andrew would have featured on the very large quantity of tapes. Other famous men who associated with Epstein include former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz, and former Senator George Mitchell. Maxwell is currently being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn as she awaits a trial on child sex trafficking charges. Now, here is the second part of this. Here is the second part of what I was talking about a few minutes ago, and that is the letter that Ghislaine Maxwell has sent now to the lawyers, the judge and the Justice Department about how the onerous conditions is making her waste away and blah, 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 blah. So, not only is this information about these tapes that are coming out now, supposedly according to Ira Rosen, but Maxwell, once again, is throwing everything she has at the wall, trying to get out of this situation that she finds herself in. So, you know what? This is already run for 32 minutes. I was going to just cover the rest of that in this article as well because they go on to cover that. But I want to keep these episodes to, right around this length, 32, 33, 25 minutes so that you folks can get through them at a quicker rate. So what we'll do is for the morning update tomorrow, we'll pick up and we'll talk about Ghislaine Maxwell and the new letter that Bobby Sternum has sent to Judge Nathan. So, folks, look, if these tapes do exist, and I am of the mind that they definitely do, I really hope that we get to see them. Not us see them per se, right? Because I certainly don't want to see the contents of those tapes. But I hope that the prosecutors get to see them. And during trial, those tapes are part of it. Right? If it's something that's going to garner a conviction or make sure that one of these people pay the price, then I think that these tapes most certainly need to be produced and they need to be shown as evidence when this trial gets underway. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. And to everybody who has supported the podcast with donations via PayPal or GoFundMe, thank you folks so much. All right, everybody, I will be back tomorrow morning, and we will discuss the letter that Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, Bobby Sternum, sent to Judge Allison Nathan. All right, everybody, until then, I hope you all have a fantastic night.